This tutorial shows you how to create a diagram with boxplots for groups with repeated measures in R. For instance, one of those diagrams. In my example, each boxplot represents a measurement at one of the 5 points in time, additionally divided into a control and an intervention group. To create this diagram with ease, I highly recommend using the ggpubr package. It is based on the ggplot2 package and will require less input and customization. Use the install.packages function and library function to install and load the package accordingly. Then, assuming you have your data in the so-called long format, if not, check the video on converting your data frame, start with the ggboxplot function. First off, you need to name your data source, aka your data frame. Then you need to specify the x and y variables. I'll show the more likely case of putting the time variable on the x-axis. Please note that having both your group and time variable as a factor is advised. Putting the time variable on the x-axis is usually done when you have a higher number of repeated measures and a smaller number of groups. If the reverse is true, you might want to consider swapping the time and the group variable. I will elaborate on that later on. The measurement value is put on the y-axis regardless. To distinguish the groups, you can use fill equals and your group variable, which will use different fill colors and a black outline throughout. As an alternative, the argument color equals and your group variable will use different outlines per group and leave the box white. This will produce basic box plots for the respective measurements with different colors used for groups. A few adjustments can and should be made. If you want different colors, you use the argument palette and within quotation marks, for instance gray or lancet. The help file will have a few more arguments you can experiment with in regard to colors. To display the horizontal part of the whiskers, you can use the argument bxp.arrowbar equals true. If you want the mean displayed as a dot, you can use add equals and within quotation marks mean. Other plot elements like jitter or dot plot can also be added, some even in combination. To change the shape of outliers, use outlier.shape equals and one of the numbers you can see on your screen now, representing different kinds of dots. The default is the number 19, but can be changed to number 8, for example. If you don't, however, want to display outliers, use outlier.shape equals NA. If you need a notched box plot, add the argument notch equals true. If the notches of two box plots do not overlap, this is a hint for different medians over time or between groups, which can be analyzed further using a mixed ANOVA. Please keep in mind that an ANOVA compares means, not medians. If you don't want the box plots of different groups right next to each other, you should use the argument facet.by with the group variable. If you decided that you want to have the group variable shown in the x-axis, you might want to use the group as the fill argument and time as the facet.by argument to get the following result.